We already have our data transform orchestrated. Our data warehouse is working perfectly. All the data is there. But now we need to show the data to the people that are going to take decisions besides that. No? We reached the visualization stage.
Yeah.
What are the options that are out there?
There are millions of options. First of all, there are really endless of tools you can use for visualizing your data. So first of all, we have to say, we talked about like this whole cloud ecosystem and which vendor to use. And of course, some of those visualizations are really maybe not bound to the vendor, but with some of them, they're working better, I would say. And that really depends on the database itself. So different databases have different techniques on like increasing the performance or like making the cost structure more like efficient, for example. And then some of them are win out while others maybe are not that good. Second of all, we have different like types of visualization tools. One to mention, or we as an agency, for example, use 3 different visualizations. First of all, Data Studio. Second of all, like this comprehensive tool we are using, Y42, where also visualization is inside. And third of all, Looker as basically Google's enterprise version of visualization. So it's not about those 3 itself, it's more about the difference of those visualizations. First of all, if you talk about Data Studio, it comes with no cost. So you have no additional cost for that visualization. And that's, of course, a very good like reason for a lot of companies to use that, right? On the other hand, it's an HTML web-based front end. That means you can put your charts, your elements, your text wherever you want. You can really style it the way you would like to have it, and there are no limits, so to say, if you know what to do.
Or add aesthetic elements quite easily.
Exactly, or build your own navigation, or you can do whatever you like. Yeah? You just need to build it yourself. That's important. On the other side, you have Y42 and Looker, which are more like a managed visualization. That means you build certain elements like charts, tables, and maybe text boxes, and they are then getting displayed on a white paper and sorted automatically. You can like change that a little bit, but at the end, those tiles are getting sorted automatically, which is very good for then mobile options because they can be resorted. Which is of course not working for Data Studio. Yeah, it's just then smaller on a mobile phone.
So we have more possibilities to style the charts, for example, in Looker, but you have in Data Studio more possibilities to rearrange all of the elements and so on. But yeah, for example, if you want to do some color visualization stuff, for example, you have more possibilities in Looker than in Data Studio. And maybe to point out one important thing, what Thomas already said with Data Studio, that it's free. So it's really easy. You just have to create a Google account, go to Data Studio. Maybe if you have already a spreadsheet or something in your Drive, you can connect it and start creating your charts and tables. So it's really, really easy to use. It needs 5 minutes and you have your first dashboard.
I think it's a cool way to test out how the visualization approach of data that you have works with Data Studio, even regardless of which tool one is going to decide to use. This flexibility of just connecting Data Studio with a free Google account to a Google Sheet. You can even, I think we made some experiments like exporting directly from Wikipedia and then showing and directly see all the possibilities that come with it. No? Like just how you're going to present the data, but also how all the elements are going to interact with each other, how you're going to filter, where you're going to position, what is the logical setup of everything. Where, besides taking a Udemy course on building and using Data Studio or reading some Medium reports, how do you recommend people to approach this, joining this visualization?
I mean, we talked about cost already, and cost is, of course, a big block of your decision process. So someone could argue, if Data Studio is for free, why is not everyone using Data Studio? And it's a fair point. But on the other side, Data Studio has also its limits. And the bigger your organization gets, the more complex it is to use Data Studio due to the fact that there are no real tools inside to manage your users, to just like group everything in a nice way. So this is then more where the territorium of Y42, Looker, and all the other tools, like for example Tableau, needs to be mentioned here, I guess, where they have their sweet spot. Of course, they come with some price, but they also give you a lot of like enterprise features, what a company of 10 people might not need. Yeah, and this is at the end this decision process you have to make. What kind of visualization do you like the most? That's quite hard to answer at the beginning, because when you look on those fancy like websites of those vendors, all the dashboards are looking super nice. But if you try it yourself, you will realize quite quickly how hard it is to really make this super nice dashboard, which is looking really good. Because sometimes there are a lot of adjustments needed and a lot of design steps to make it nice like that.
To really point that out, so if you have the database in the one hand, so for example in BigQuery or whatever, and then you choose a visualization. For example, you say, okay, at first we can start with Data Studio. We have already the data in the data warehouse, and now we can start with Data Studio. You can build your dashboards and so on, but then you maybe realize, here are some things I cannot do with Data Studio. And then you look maybe for other visualization tools, and you see maybe, for example, Looker or Tableau, what you already mentioned. You can already switch to Looker, right? Because you have all your data in a data warehouse which you can connect to Looker. And then you can build your next data dashboards in Looker. So that is also possible.
This is a very interesting point, Alex, because a lot of people start using Data Studio first of all, a lot of small companies are using Data Studio if they are in the Google environment, because that's the easiest option to start with visualization.
It obviously just makes sense. I know you're going somewhere, but just as a parenthesis, if we look back just 5-7 years ago, before Data Studio was more positioned and it was already existing but not as developed, a lot of teams, maybe they're still doing it, we're spending so many working days building reports based on spreadsheets and building each time a new chart, new diagrams, and already this point with whatever, it's already a big move forward. Yes. No? So if you're still in an organization that is making weekly reports manually, maybe from a template, but kind of from scratch every week, already going to Data Studio that is going to take only a couple of minutes to set up the template and then have the automated reports based on the numbers, it's already a big win for the organization.
Yes. I think a big trap you can fall into is doing too much of those transformations and also orchestrations in Data Studio directly. I think we talked about that in the last episode already. So how important are transformations? What can you do? And at the beginning, it seems quite easy to do that in Data Studio directly, because they are also offering data blending, connecting data. But we can really, from our side, we can really not recommend it, because it adds a level of complexity to your visualization, which you cannot handle at a certain point. If you do it with two tables, once, I would say it's okay, but we all know what once means. Once is twice, and twice is like my whole BI system works on like blending data in Data Studio. It gets super slow, performance is not given, and you have a lot of like failovers at the end, which are then not working. And then your whole BI system lives in a tool you cannot really replace. So you need to stay with Data Studio forever. And we have a lot of examples with our clients where we really also started with Data Studio, but then also went to a more enterprise level where we said, okay, maybe a different visualization is now like needed. Yeah. And if then your whole like transformation takes place in Data Studio, you're trapped in that tool. So this is the kind of degree of freedom I would like to have in my BI solution, to say, okay, my transformation is in a tool or not in a tool, but it's completely separated from a visualization. And that should be the case, I would say.
Maybe. So what I always say is, because we do not want to transform the data inside the visualization tool, we want to do it in the data warehouse, at least most of the time. But I always say, when I transform data, for example, in Data Studio, I just do it because I want to improve the visualization. So for example, I say, okay, I have two columns with two strings, and it makes sense just in the visualization because maybe in terms of alignment or whatever, I want to have it in one column. Then I can say, okay, I do a quick concat. in a function, and I concat these both, and that's done. And that is just for visualization. And for sure, all the aggregation stuff, that should be inside the Data Studio report. So if you have, for example, event counter or whatever, and you want to show the number of events per day, then you quickly just aggregate it to every day. So that is also possible. And then you can also calculate more with these aggregation data.
Yeah, there are some average, like weighted metrics you can normally not pre-process. Because then you have a normal like average, what you in some cases do not want. You don't know what kind of date range the stakeholder at the end, the user is filtering. And some of those metrics you might need to build live inside the visualization. But everything else, most importantly, all the KPIs you need, all the defined KPIs which are like selected in your company should not be built in the visualization.
We talked about this clear moment in which a company or a team decides to move from making their manual reports on Excel or Google Sheets to Data Studio and another tool, a free tool. When would you recommend a team or a company to move forward to this? Like you said, we had some clients that have shifted from Data Studio to another platform. Some general guidelines of maybe some people are already considering, okay, Data Studio is not doing exactly for me. What would be a good moment to be, yes, stop trying to fix everything in Data Studio, move to this other tool?
That's really, really hard to answer, I would say, because we know internally that we have really big clients who are still in Data Studio, and that's not a problem, I would say.
It's not a matter of size.
No, it's not a matter of size, first of all. It's also not a matter of money, first of all, I would say. It's more, first of all, how do I like the visualization? How do I want to work with the system? I think that's the most important fact here. Yeah? How do I want to work with the data analysis? If I have a dashboard in Data Studio, I can make links inside the table, which are then linking to other Data Studio pages. It's all possible, but to a certain amount of knowledge, first of all, and also a manual building process. Yeah, then I need to kind of build a concatenation between a link and a certain value of the filtering to link again to another page. So it sounds already quite complex. So you need to build that and you need to know how to do it. And if those links are changing, then maybe your links are broken and you might not realize it. So it comes to a certain level of, problems. So general answer to your question, when you are about to go really deep inside the data and you would really, as a data analyst, like analyze it on a deeper level and play around, filter different things, Data Studio might do the job, but Looker probably would do the job better.
So maybe in terms of, for example, when you are now comparing Looker with Data Studio, the border to the data warehouse is not so clear than to Data Studio, because you can also do some transformations in Looker if you want, and if you want to do that. And Data Studio is really just visualization. But Looker is really, you can also write SQL queries and so on in it. And Looker is maybe more for people who are knowing the data and want to use and want to show and want to analyze the data. Yeah. So it also depends on the team you have and the people you have, right?
If you, for example, like give your data to your data scientist, for example, that would be another very, very important like fact for not doing the transformation in the visualization, because they would probably connect to the raw data, not the raw data, but to the database directly. And if they need to then rebuild what you built in the visualization, that will probably not work. And then they will work with different databases or the data foundation as you do.
Yeah. And frequent point to reach is when also a team realizes that not everything should be a dashboard. It's always when people talk about making analysis or getting something useful out of everything that is in the data warehouse, at least in the recent time, it has always been, okay, let's make a dashboard out of it. And it's cool. Of course, it gives these possibilities of playing around and seeing what the people want to see, but not everything should be one. What could it be if it's not a dashboard?
Of course, dashboard is the term when it comes to data analysis. Yeah, I said it the right way. When you, like, if you think a little bit more modern, the dashboard solves one particular problem. It gives you some insights when you search for them. And then normally it's completely separated from other information you might need in your data warehouse. So you look, for example, okay, what kind of products did I buy yesterday? Well, not I, but the customers. So on the other side, you would like to know about the stock, and would like to know about what kind of products are maybe out of stock. So this is nice to know, but at the end, to really make the difference, you need to act on this information you get. So, and this is where it starts, where both worlds, like the operational side, what you do with your job every day, combines with the analytical world. And this should basically happen in every company, that we are not clearly separated, the operational guys who are doing the job every day, but and the analysts on the other side, but that every person is basically doing both sides, analyzing and doing their job. And therefore, the data warehouse needs to also connect the operational side to the analytical side. How does it look in reality? If you check what kind of products are getting out of stock, and you see, okay, those products will not be in stock in 2 months, you can do an automatic version which says, okay, I click on that product, I go to my replenishment system and reorder them directly. Of course, you can also fully optimize it, but that's then the next step, right? But this already improves the whole process massively.
Yeah, so I think one important aspect, if you really want to do a dashboard, is alerting. So if you say, for example, when you take the stock example, for sure you can build a dashboard and see for every article the current stock value and so on. But then somebody has to look at it, right? So, and if no one looks at it...
That sounds stupid, but it's exactly the case in a lot of companies, right? Yeah. You build a lot of dashboards, no one is using them, right? So.
And then maybe you say, okay, nobody's looking at it. Maybe we should just do an email schedule alert or a Slack channel or whatever. And then maybe they recognize it and see, okay, product A is now really, really out of stock and we have to change or something. Yeah. And in Data Studio report, it's already mentioned it 3 weeks ago or whatever.
I think what we realize at that point is it's really important how people are consuming the data. And it's not only that we say, sending emails with data makes no sense at all because it's that was 20 years ago. That's not completely true. It sometimes does the job. Yeah, it maybe sounds and looks old school. Yes, I have the same feeling. But on the other side, if then every day someone who would never go to the analytical system gets some information out of that, good stuff, then it solves the problem. Yeah, and this is how you should think about what kind of solutions are going to work and what kind of solutions are maybe not that good. If I build the most modern data warehouse solution, but everyone in my team is not thinking in that direction and is not using it, because first of all, they know since 20 years that it has a completely different process, and I never onboarded them the right way, then of course the system will not succeed.
Yeah. Alex, how should someone keep up to date with dashboard design, visualization styles?
Yeah, so for example, we have our Medium account where we already publishing some blog posts and so on. And for example, one thing is to really be up to date in BigQuery and Data Studio, Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics also. So that is a good source where you can really catch up and get every new release of the tools.
Which you should also do. I mean, that doesn't mean that you definitely need to do it on our blog post. It would be nice, of course, but there are so many changes over the weeks, months, and years, obviously, that it's even for us who are working with those systems every day in and out, sometimes in the morning when Alex sends his blog post draft to me or to the group, I'm looking inside and say, wow, this is now really working. I'm super excited. Yeah. And if I would not read the blog post draft from Alex, I would probably then realize it some weeks or months later when I stumble over it.
Yeah, I see two parts to highlight. The first one is to see how there's a community behind all these tools. I think when we talked before how to choose a tool, regardless of the complexity, a good way to think about when choosing is see how active the people are around it. Now, the tools that we mentioned there's people online creating, blog posts, but on Twitter and different places, creating dashboard templates that someone can use. I think that's a very good indicator of how robust this tool is, the flexibility that it has and that.
Yeah.
And the other point to highlight is in another video, we were talking about how all this environment is changing constantly. No? And if you build something in-house, you can be surprised at what now the API is structured in a different way. But the cool part in this tool is what you're saying. Now you might be struggling with a certain element that what you're using to build your dashboards is not working properly. But keeping up to date with these changes, there might be, like we've seen it quite a few times already now, that it comes on Monday and something that was giving us a headache for months is now solved.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool.
And if you really if you take Data Studio as an example, which has a huge community all over the world, and you look at dashboards from someone who started with the dashboard design 2 weeks ago, and you look on a dashboard from someone who does that since 5 years, there's a big difference in how it looks and what this tool is capable of. Yeah. And this is where you should stay in the process and make your own process better and better.
I think definitely keep up to date with the Medium post. Alex is very active in there, and in general there are visualization principles that apply regardless of which tool is selected.
Yeah. If you have any questions, that's maybe important to mention about Data Studio, about Looker, where we should go in more detail. Write it in the comments. We are happy to bring it in the next episode, I would say, and talk about it. And
thanks for your attention, and we'll see you in the next videos.